Thank you so much. Welcome to this episode of Build by Humans. Today, our guest is Brian. We're talking about everything that has to do with the human side of building products. My name is Zhenya. I'm running a company called Mirigos, where we focus on helping companies hire absolutely brilliant engineering talent from Latin America and Eastern Europe. We're not an outsourcing shop. We actually believe outsourcing model is a bit outdated. So we talk a lot about communications. We talk a lot about what it takes to manage in today's distributed world. Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself so everybody knows what it's about, what's your background is.
Sure. My name is Brian Regienczuk. I'm the CEO and founder of SpotSource, and got a long career helping marketing and design organizations, Fortune 500 companies. Our product basically helps large companies manage their service providers and other indirect suppliers. So think a marketing organization running all those marketing agencies or production houses that they're engaging with. How do you navigate that? How do you manage workflows around projects and bids? That's what we do. And we've been around for more than 5 years doing that with some of the biggest brands in the world.
Cool. Well, you've been around for a while, and I'm sure you, over the years, worked with every possible model out there, right? You've had direct hires local in office, direct hires remotely in the US. I'm sure you've had contractors, you work with dev shops. I guess I'll start with what was the biggest unexpected surprise in terms of what doesn't work as you expect, right? You go in and it's just, oops, it didn't work the way I hoped.
Yeah, I would say both early in my career and then more recently, probably, maybe 7 years ago or so, I found that communication was trickier than I expected. So when working with some development shops and contractors based in countries that didn't speak English as like one of their primary languages, or they spoke English, but they came from a culture of yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that kind of a thing. And the watch out for me, or the learning for me, I learned it early in my career, and then I kind of relearned it later as I was in a role overseeing a lot of different people, is, number one, make sure you understand the culture you're hiring from. So it's not just about the person, it's about are they in a country or in a culture that likes to say yes, even though you have to dig deeper. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to take you a year to do this, or yes, you can do it in, a day, right? Get much more granular with them. That was one learning. And then, it also has influenced my go-to when I'm hiring people. It's helped me learn some of the things based on my skill set and what is easier for me to work with, learn what's more comfortable, who to hire, what countries or regions maybe I have to be more careful if I hire from. So,
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You're touching on an interesting thing, and it's exactly what was my experience. I come from a culture here in the US, mostly working in startups, right? Most of my career has been in startups. I work in some large enterprise companies, but most of it's in startups. In startups, everything's direct. Somebody asks you a question, you say what you think, and to the point of arguing, right? You're not afraid to walk up to your CEO and go, dude, you're nuts, right? This is not going to work. You want it shipped in a week? It's not going in the way. Like, it just
Right.
get real. And then, you start working with certain cultures, certain regions, and it is regional. And hey, can you do this by tomorrow? Yes. Okay. Well, you said yes. And then you come back tomorrow and it's not done. And it's like, okay, well, so it's not done. I understand. Well, do you think you can finish it by tomorrow or, by tonight? Yes. And then I went to the completely different region where it was the flip side. Do you think, can you do this by tomorrow? And you get a 25-minute explanation of what can possibly go wrong, only to at the end hear, yes, I'll get it done. It actually gets done, but it's like, could you just say yes?
Yeah. And I mean, everybody's different. I have my set of skills and my team has a certain set of skills, and we're from, one region. And, so we've learned what works for us, right? Doesn't mean, there's no right answer for any one, you can't, cut and paste for everyone, right? So everybody's a bit different. So.
Yeah, I also find that a lot of it is regional and cultural. Also, a lot of it is baked into this model that everybody worked in for so many years, which we call outsourcing, include whatever dev shops outsourcing, where the person works for company A, right? And I'm talking about the middleman, right? The outsourcing company.
Mm,
And their entire mentality is, and the company's mentality and their mentality is, well, we have to deliver, right? If we're going to say no, then they're going to go and hire somebody else.
yeah, yeah.
And the person's loyalty is ultimately not to you. It's to their manager, right? It's their person who reviews their salary, right? Hires them, fires them, and everything. And they have very different motivations and they have very different goals and objectives than you might. And so that
Mm,
creates this
mm,
whole conflict. And it's like it's literally baked into the model. It's
yeah,
not people's fault. It's just, it just doesn't work that way.
yeah. Well, I think too that in that, in that scenario too, you have some people who are incentivized by how many hours they bill,
Yeah,
right? And so there can be, mismatches, right? That you
absolutely.
have to really be aware of when depending on who you're hiring, what type of either an individual or a group. And you have to find ways to manage that successfully.
Right. Yeah, it's when I started Mirigos, when I started with this company, right? I was actually coming out of a large enterprise company where I was running a couple hundred people engineering team, and we had them all over the place. Right? I'm based in LA, so we had them here in Los Angeles, but we also had them in Europe, we had them in India, in China, literally, everywhere. And we
Yeah.
were managing all these challenges. And when I was there, and then I sort of based on my model that I built there, built that's what the company was built in, and it was really solving the problem of outsourcing. Where
Yeah.
even though we're sort of middlemen, right? My company is middleman, but we step outside, right? And we're not engaged. The person who works for you, they actually work for you. You manage them, and the motivation is not billing in hours because we do monthly salary, right? It's not. It's not. Nobody gets benefit of more hours or less hours. In fact, you'd probably want to do more in the least amount of hours. But it's really, we step out and we go, you don't work for us, even though on paper you do. You work for the company, and it's the company that every day makes a decision to keep you on payroll or not. We don't make that decision. Like you as a hiring manager do. And so
Yeah.
don't please me, please him. And it just works. But
Yeah.
switching gears just for a sec. Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted to say something. Go ahead.
I would say I've also seen like there is also kind of different generations of people
Yeah.
to have different work ethics too and different expectations coming into a job.
Very much so.
Making sure you level set and keep those things in mind as well.
Yeah, no, you're touching on a very important subject, and I deal with a lot of younger generation, right? I don't know. I still call myself young. My kids call me dinosaur, so I don't know. I
Yeah.
fall somewhere in between. But yeah, there's a big difference in how we used to do it and what we get today, and that's
Yeah.
not even related to even though some regions are better than like US been a big problem with younger recent
Hmm.
grads. The whole
Yeah.
work ethics is
They like
different.
to say, "Oh, you're from the 1900s," right?
Yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
a little
Uh,
tongue in cheek, but yeah.
working again. This is today you hear a lot from somebody. I work a few hours over the weekend, so I'm gonna have to take Monday off because I have to recover, and I'm going back to me at 2021. Yeah, I just pulled in an 80-hour week because we had a release, and cool. That was awesome. That was actually good. Let's keep going because it
Yeah.
means something. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was going to touch on is a hot topic these days, H-1B visas. So everybody's talking about it, right? You probably heard the news.
Hmm.
Without getting whether it's a good idea or bad idea, I don't even want to touch that. Let other people figure that one out. What do you think the effect is going to be, or how should companies work around it or accommodate themselves or accommodate the rules? Like, I actually have an opinion, but I want to hear yours, and then we can compare notes.
I think it's interesting that we have, at least in the US right now, we have this return to work in a lot of, maybe not in startups as much,
Hmm.
depending on the industry you're in, but just in general, developers and other folks are being asked to come back to the office more days a week than maybe when they were originally hired, maybe they were fully remote. Yeah. We run a fully remote team. But I think that's an interesting contrast to like, well, now you can't, or like it's more difficult, right? The
Right.
H1B thing is much more difficult. So does that encourage you to hire people that are already here in the US? Or does it encourage you to outsource to people who are remote and not ever offer them H-1B,
Mhm.
ever offer
Mhm.
that status, right? So it's a strange tension, I think, that's building that may be maybe unexpected. We know the rates in the US are going, continue to go up generally for development jobs. And so,
Interesting. So you obviously gave two obvious choices, right? That's either or. But
yeah.
if we believe that H-1B visa was there because you couldn't find local talent, taking the H-1B visa out doesn't solve the problem of talent. You still can't find local talent. So now you go to
Yeah,
remote.
that's true. Yeah.
And I can tell you, we have a lot of clients that come in, and a lot of our clients are, I'd say, on a startup-ish side, right? We don't deal with early stage. I mean, we do, but not a lot early stage startup. And I mean, early
Sure.
stages, and two founders just had an idea,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
not our market. But 10 people company, got funding or getting funding. That's very typical for us. And a lot of them come in with, we're not looking to save money. We're actually looking to hire really good talent, really strong talent. We can't find it locally. And the word can't implies or, sort of takes in multiple things. It's, we don't have technical skills. We don't have availability. We also can't get people that care enough, right? Going back to culture and going back to work ethics. It's a startup. We want somebody to work their butt off, and we just
Mhm.
can't find those people. So I often, lately I've been saying, the whole H-1B is not going to affect companies. As a matter of fact, is just the new world is you don't bring people in the office anymore. You don't need to have them in the office. Everybody's remote anyway. So what does H-1B do? And,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about
Yeah.
software, right? I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of H-1B in universities and academia, right? That's all.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
That's
Yeah.
different. I'm talking about purely from the
Yeah, and
software
I
point
think
of
I
view.
think that's kind of where I was going. It's like there's this conflict of like go back to the office, but then you have to hire more people that are remote, that are experts, that actually you might want. If you are in the office, you might want them in the office with you, right? Because then your team can learn from them, right?
Yep.
Or there's knowledge transfer, or you can shorten work cycles sometimes when you are working in the same time zone or things like that. So, I think it's an interesting challenge, and I do think it's something that startups and big companies are going to have to wrangle.
Yeah.
So
Interesting return to those we're talking about. And I have a lot of friends that work for companies that are returning to the office, either full
mhm.
time or significant amount of time. And a significant, I
Yeah,
mean, 4 days in office, 3 days in office, and
3 to 4,
remote.
yeah, is what I'm hearing a lot.
Right.
Even some of the kind of what I would say they're like starting to break out of the startup space, really, like mid-sized company, really. So, they've grown, and now they're also, doing, getting people to come back to the office, at least, 3 days a week. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife actually, so this is probably my best example. My wife works for a very, she's not in IT at all, right? She has nothing to do with software, has nothing to do with IT. She works in a very large US enterprise company. I'm not going to name names, but let's just say they have about 350,000 US employees, right? So we're talking about a large. And they used to be in office that was very strict, like you have to be in at a certain time, punch in, punch out, even though, no need for it, but that's how it worked. Like,
Yeah.
no, they were not allowed to wear jeans to work, right? This is how crazy it was. They're not customer facing; it's all back office, but that's how
Yeah.
it is. Fine.
Yeah.
COVID comes in, they're sent home, right? Obviously, that's the thing. Now that they've gone, they've after during COVID, they basically said no, it's permanent. This is it. Everybody stays home,
Yeah.
and so they're home. They're not going to bring it back. They're all talking about the productivity increased. People are happier. More gets done because people are no longer right. They don't think I got to show up at this time and leave at that time. There's no flexibility, and they still know they have to get their job done. So to me, that's the best example in a completely different world, in a completely different industry where, it actually works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole topic, but yeah, I think it's also what life stage you're in is a big factor as to whether
Yeah.
it's good for you or not. Find that you get, and this is true in the startup world, right? When you are building that initial culture, right? How do you build it when everybody's remote, nobody's coming together and having drinks after work, or having dinner, a meal together,
Mhm.
right? Same thing when you're in a big company and you have a lot of younger folks who maybe this is their first or second job, right?
Right.
They're looking, the place that people meet one another after college is at work,
At
right? In
work.
in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, right? At least in Western cultures. And that has been a problem for that group. And they also, it's harder for them to get trained because their peers, like the like managers and everything else, they're all remote, right? Like, so it's a little there. I think there's productivity gains, and it's really good for people who have started a family or people who are
Right.
technically super experts, and there's really no need. Like, they're not interfacing with people on a
Mhm.
day-to-day basis that, they're training or, something like that. Yeah. So there's nobody's
Yeah.
figured it out yet. I think
It's
there's probably a
different.
balance, but nobody knows what it is yet.
I absolutely agree with you. One of the things that's missing today, and I actually I have a good friend who worked from home after COVID, and their company did not mandate return to office, but he asked, and he said, "I want to go to office 2, 3 times a week because it's lonely at home, right? It's hard." He's just the type of
Yeah.
person where it's hard, and he's got kids, he's got a wife, so it's not like he's on his own. But it's like, I just can't get myself doing this now. Me, myself, since I started this company, I'm never in an office. I'm in my home, right? I mean, it is an office, right? It's a separate room. It's a home office, but I'm about
Yeah.
20 steps from my bedroom. And that's how it is. But somebody's got to figure out this building the relationships, building friendships, and building the connection, which is not there. That's very true. Although, travel, right? Bring them over. Go visit them.
It's probably cheaper than just having an office.
It's way cheaper. So when I was VP of engineering at Ticketmaster, right? And we built a team, and we built a team in Ukraine, and I had to put a budget together. And in my budget, we put in that every 3 months we take 2 people from the US and they fly to Ukraine, and same every 3 months we have 2 people from Ukraine to fly to the US office. So, basically, you've got 4 people every 3 months traveling in those directions. And it worked really well, right? It built the connections, it built the relationships, it built the friendships. So it did all of that. And believe me, the cost, if you account for salary differences, benefits, all of the overhead. There's a lot of overhead. People don't think about it. People just compare salary, right? X and Y, but in the US, the overhead is so high.
Yeah. If you're in a big city, I mean, office space is really expensive.
Exactly. Yeah. Medical insurance, office space, taxes, right? So all of that. That travel was a small percentage of what it would cost, and it worked so well.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. That's very interesting. So what do you think, like, if you were to build a company today, let's say you're starting your own company, your own business. Would you do it remote? Would you do it a hybrid? What would you do?
Yeah, I would start hybrid, right? If I could, but if I didn't have my own, like if I didn't have a space I could start hybrid, then I would do just fully remote, right? So I think it's a waste of time hunting for space to work out of and things like if you are starting something brand new, I would do it fully remote initially. I mean, it helps, I think, if you're a founder, if you do have a co-founder, that you guys are both located in the same city, like you can see each other. Like those early stages, there is something in those first few employees being like physically present with each other. But after that, I don't know that it matters as much. It's about finding really good people that can get the thing built and get the thing sold and all those things.
And you can actually do sort of, it's not hybrid, but you can do, so let's say, right, you're starting a new company and you want to do remote. There are 2 options, right? You can go and say, I'm going to hire engineers from all over the world. I'll have one engineer from India, one from, I don't know, Spain, one from Argentina. Or you could say, let me build the entire engineering team in one region. It doesn't have to be in the same country, but in one region. Let's say it's in Eastern Europe or it's in Latin America. They share the time different, the time zone is the same. Culturally, they're closer to each other, even though they're in different countries, they're closer to each other. So they're operating as that pod, and it becomes much easier. So there are a couple of ways, or many ways to address that.
Yeah, I think that's smart. I think what we have done is similar. We have like identified for like development where we want to hire from, and we always are hiring from that country for us, right? But even if it was regional, like that makes a lot of sense. We still fight the time zone, thing a little bit, but we've we've found a nice flow, in over the years to where it works for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I find, unfortunately, right, Latin America works well for time zone because
Mhm.
if you're in Pacific time, then you're only 3-4 hours away.
Yeah.
Eastern Europe works, even though it's 9 hours away, 9-10 hours away, but it works because they tend to work later hours, so there's plenty
Mhm.
of overlap. It's Asia that's killing it, right? You're dealing with 12-hour time difference. There's just not a good time to talk, right? 9 a.m. here is 9 p.m. there, or vice versa, and there's just
Yeah.
no way to talk. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
And yeah, so somebody has to stay up late or get up early or
Or
like
get up
be
early,
ready,
right?
so yeah, so I think that's Asia certainly is more of a challenge, but it depends on what stage your company's at, right? That may be hard when you're just starting out, but once you're 10 or 12 people,
Right.
maybe that team is doing stuff that is more specified, right? It's
Mhm.
easier to hand off in stories and they just do their work and they check in and um, you know, that's one model. And I think in Europe as well, I think it's similar. Like, it may be a little trickier if you're in those founding stages, but as you get to that 10 plus person
Mhm.
company, I think you've kind of got a base product, right? And
Definitely.
you're expanding, innovating on it versus like coming up with it from the beginning.
Definitely. Definitely. All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking the time. I think it was a very interesting conversation. It's firsthand experience of what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to talk to you.